Hey everybody, JJ here. It is Saturday, March 18th, 2023. Pace Morby's in Los Angeles. Everybody's really, really excited out here. If you haven't heard of Pace Morby, he's the premier genius in creative finance for real estate in the country. He heads up the group called Sub2, which is the best real estate education platform in the country, bar none. All you other guys know who you are. Wish you were Pace. Our guest speaker today is a good friend of mine who I met from my first education program and followed him to Sub2, and been like years now that we're just the best of friends. And with what you do, the relationships are going to make your business a success. And don't chase the deal, chase the relationship. And when you look for just good, fantastic, wonderful, genuine people, you're going to run into someone like this guy. My good friend, Mr. Scott Jenkins. Scott, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother. I'm doing great. Happy Saturday to you, man.
Likewise. Happy belated birthday by a day.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it yesterday.
Big 5-0, right?
Big 4-0. 4-0. Come on, man. You're aging me too
fast. Add them together. There you go. So,
hey, I keep hearing anyway, age is all relative, right? It's all up here.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously.
The younger you think you feel, the better you are, man. I just don't age. I'm eternal.
Yeah, no, you're awesome. Obviously we clicked early on.
Yep.
Have similar mindsets on things. It's just always a pleasure to be around you. So let's get to you. For those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
I'm sitting right now in Portland, Oregon. My wife and I were in Northern California for a long time. And then we moved up here because her parents are getting older and they need help. So we both run another company, but I've got great people there who are managing that for me. And doing wholesaling, it doesn't matter where I am, as long as I have my Surface and cell phone. That's it.
I'll briefly touch on wholesaling. You're wholesaling, you live in Oregon, but you're wholesaling all over the country.
Yep.
We're going to get into that later, but just right off the bat, how many states are you wholesaling in approximately?
Well, 11 total, but right now we're focusing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 regions.
9 regions. Mm-hmm. And we've got your team with us today. We'll bring them on a little bit.
We do.
Excited about that.
Me too. So, I'm excited.
Real estate, is this something you've done like right out of high school through your early part of your life, 20s and 30s, or where did Scott Jenkins start? Let's say, where did you grow up? Southern California?
No, God, no. Oh, no. In the good old beer capital, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I bought a 1975 anniversary Harley that I actually never ever rode because I was pounding ground in Southeast Asia. So I sold that bike without, again, ever riding on it. So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin after high school. Right when I graduated, my best friend, childhood friend, he and I lived door to door. He was getting married, and the plan was I was going to marry his wife's sister, who was honestly drop dead gorgeous, and that we would buy a truck together and we would drive cross country together in a truck, and I would live next door to him, and we would grow old and die together. That just didn't seem like the life for me. So I was walking downtown Milwaukee one day with my to future be wife, and I saw the infamous sign, the few, the proud, the Marines. And I thought, let me have a look. So I went in, took the test, and lo and behold, what did the guy tell me? I passed.
You passed.
I don't know if anybody ever fails, but anyway, I was elated. I passed. And the guy told me, look, we want you to go, but you're 17 and a half. So you got to get your parent to sign, one of your parents. So I took the paperwork home. My mom was in between shifts. She was working 2 shifts then. I sat her down at the table, showed her the paperwork, and said, Mom, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to go. And she looked at me and she knew it. She knew it for years that Scott needed to get out of Milwaukee. So she signed. So I called the recruiter and I said, look, got my mom's signature. And he said, okay, we'll be there at 3 a.m. to pick you up. And I thought, who in their right mind goes to anyone's home at 3 a.m.? So I called my best buddy. I called all my friends. We got together. We went down the basement. We got a few kegs. If everybody knows what a keg is, we got a few kegs. We went crazy. I probably passed out around 2 a.m. Guess who's knocking on the door at 3? The Marine recruiter with another Marine. And I don't know what I threw on, but I threw something on. They put me in the back of that car. They took me to Billy Mitchell Field, put me on a plane, and off to San Diego. I think I slept the whole bloody way. I woke up when they put me on the bus, fell back asleep, woke up when we got me to the Marine Depot, and they had us get out of that bus, lined us all up. And the first understanding of Marine Corps is they said, this is your immunity moment. Empty your pockets out. Whatever goes in that basket, you have full immunity. If you keep it and you walk away, you no longer have immunity. I mean, there were brass knuckles, knives, everything dropping in those baskets. And then at that time, I had very long hair. It was the 70s, everybody. Very long hair, beard, and they sat us down for haircuts. And the guy says, how do you want it cut? And I said, well, just a little around the ears. And if you could trim the beard a bit, that'd be great. Good old smart ass Scott. And this guy took those sheep shears and just and I'm watching all this hair hit the deck. And then on the face. Have you ever been shaved with a sheep shears? Don't do it. So all that's gone. The first night, this master gunny, I had no idea what the hell a rank was. They put us in a bunk. He comes up to me, looks me in the face and says, you will never effing make it. And I looked at him and I said, F you. Throughout boot camp, that guy kept showing up. At graduation, he walked up to me and said, I knew you'd make it. How would you like to go to recon? When I went in, I was 250 pounds. Wow. When I came out, I was 173. So there you go. That was my start from high school to Marine Corps. Spent a few years in Southeast Asia, pounding ground there. Then came out of there, was picked up by the U.S. Department of State for diplomatic security because they were looking for people who weren't afraid to get shot at. I thought, hey, that happened to me every day. Why not? So they trained us. They taught us how to be ethically proper. How to eat at dinner, what forks to use, what knives to use, what glasses are wine glasses, how to speak in a diplomatic forum, the different ranks in an embassy so that we understood the world we were going to now live in. So that was the world I lived in for several years. Wow. And I was speaking with Neil on some of the people I worked with in the U.S. government. Then I left the government and I worked privately as a personal protection professional, basically a bodyguard for an Israeli banker that was high up on the PLO hit list at that time. I lived for 5 years and flew for 5 years without ever touching an airport. So that was an experience in and of itself.
Wait. You flew for 5 years and never touched an airport?
Yep. I never went through an airport. We always went around the airport to the back of the airport and with VIP service, and were basically chauffeured onto our planes. So I never once showed my passport because they would handle that. And we would never go through the airport. We were always going around, or we flew private, or we flew helicopter. Yeah. But that was an experience in itself. Then I went to digital, and then I went to Apple. And then I came to the US and started working with Pinkerton Consulting in the US. So my life has never really ever been real estate. I was a consumer, like a lot of people. I bought a home. The way I bought that home, had I known then what I know today, I never would have bought it that way, ever. I never would have done it in my name. I never would have gone to get a bank loan. There are so many different ways I would have bought that home. So my wife and I, she was in corporate America 25 years. I was in corporate America for I don't know how many years. And we were thinking there's got to be something better in life. So she found fortune builders. And she said to me, let's go to this 3-day thing. So we did. On day 2, I said, this is it. Let's get involved. So we did. So we started Fortune Builders. So that was probably back in 2018. So we took a year to do education. And then I tried to do the fix and flips. And I don't know how many offers I put in. And they were never accepted. I mean, always too low. I think I had one accepted, but it didn't go through. Honestly, it was frustrating. It was very, very frustrating. And I almost gave up and said, this is not for us, apparently. It's for other people. And then my wife saw a YouTube video of Brent Daniels. And she said, watch this. And I did. And it clicked. And I thought, this is the guy I have to learn wholesaling from. So I did. I devoured all of Brent Daniels' YouTubes at the time. Then I did training with Brent Daniels. And I learned how to put wholesale deals, especially how to speak to sellers. That's where that all started. How to have that conversation. And after doing Brent Daniels for a while, we started getting success. We started getting contracts, started wholesaling. Then I came across Astro Flipping with Jamil Damji. And then a bigger light bulb went off in my head that there's a different way of wholesaling than trying to do it yourself direct to seller. Now you can leverage relationships with other wholesalers, and you can be the middle person, micro flipping. You can find an acquisition wholesalers who are good at finding deals, but they're terrible at dispoing or selling them. And then you can be the guy either with the buyers or have disposition wholesalers who are really have strong buyer databases. And then you just basically orchestrate the deal. So I started doing that. And that's where really I started getting a lot more traction. And then in a lot of deals I couldn't do because there's no equity, I would have to walk away. And that's where I discovered Sub 2. And I started learning creative deals, how to put together a subject 2 deal, a creative deal, a hybrid mixed with Sub 2 creative, how to do a novation. So I did my first novation in Atlanta with someone else and brought that through. So now I know how to do novations. I know how to negotiate novations. So all of that is what brought me to today, in feeling comfortable in doing what we do, yet still being a student, because there's so much more to learn, and being able to turn around and help others, hopefully expedite their process and get to where or beyond me. There you go. In a nutshell, that's who I am.
Yeah, from when we first met, kind of watching you from a distance, you just exploded.
I love this, JJ. This fits me so well. I love people. I really do. I love helping people. I love talking to people. Now, I will say, Neil is the true schmoozer. I'm not. I mean, he's the type of guy that can get somebody to love him and think they've been friends for 50 years in less than 5 minutes.
Let's talk about Neil. You have a team that you put this together. You had a class for a long time. You had a lot of people coming to you because you were doing really well. You were offering to help people. You had dozens of people coming on once or twice a week to try and learn what you were doing.
Yep.
And they all kind of drifted by the wayside. Tell us how that class came about and what you were looking for people to participate, and then how you accidentally ran it, because you literally accidentally ran into your team. But
I did. Well, actually, you introduced me
before
to
that,
this
you had
team.
this class and you were teaching. And
Right.
you were,
Yeah.
tell us about that class and how that developed and how that led to your team.
Well, basically, it started by I started something called Comparama, and it was to help educate people on how to comp a property quickly and accurately, because everything we do starts from there. If your ARV is wrong, your numbers are going to be wrong. So the deal will be wrong. You probably won't be able to move it. So the most important number is that ARV. How do you come to that? And what truly is an ARV, and what truly are the appraisal rules? So I started that group with that, and then it morphed into a lot of other people saying, hey, can you help us understand wholesaling? So I did. So for about 6 months, I guess 6 or 7 months, it had really been weekly Scott pontificating. And, even though I love doing presentations, I love public speaking, um, it, I realized at a certain moment that it's not enough for Scott to sit there and every week talk about a topic without others taking action. So one day I shifted the whole focus and I said, okay, we're going to stop pontification. It's going to be action. So I put together KPIs. I said, okay, this is what we need to do. And every week you're going to have KPIs, and bring your KPIs. And if you don't submit your KPIs, I'm not allowing you in the Zoom. I didn't want to become, a capital P. But I thought, in this world, if you don't take action, you're not going to learn and you're not going to get anywhere. So that started working with certain people. Others, it didn't. I don't think it really worked because I think some people weren't ready at that time. But then I realized, because I was doing Nightly Dial and I was doing other mentor programs that I was leading, and then I started working with Neil and Sam, and I started looking at, okay, I've got my production time, I've got my green time, which is money making time. Where do I need to spend my time that is the most productive and the most helpful to others? So I took a step back from that group, and I think Sevlin is still leading that group. But I shifted my focus over to Nightly Dial, to Sub2, to Astro Flipping, and to Neil and Sam, so that, not saying my time is more precious than anyone else's, but you've only got a given amount of time in a week.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not a 501c. I am not a non-for-profit. I need to make money. So every minute of my day is calculated. Every minute of my day, I do question, is what I'm doing right now moving me closer to my goal and helping others achieve theirs? If the answer to that question either is no, I shouldn't be doing it. So that's what I started doing, JJ, is assessing where I need to spend my time and how I should be spending my time. And I think it has really borne fruit in the way that those things are now being done.
Cool.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no. I know that it's all a process, and it's funny sometimes how we start interacting with other people allows us to see a different path.
Absolutely. And you asked a question, Sam and Neil. How did I get introduced to Sam and Neil? Well, you did.
Well, I introduced you to Sam and Neil.
Yeah, you introduced me. And, I had the conversation with them. And in the beginning, you had mentioned it. I think both of them were pretty fearful of having that conversation, right? I think that it was a fear of making a mistake or saying something wrong. There's nothing you can say wrong, really. We're all human beings. We all screw up. So I started with Sam and Neil. And I think from the onset, what I really enjoyed was that deep down desire to be successful, to learn this and really go as far as possible in the real estate realm. So we started off small and slow. I mean, I started them with the nuts and bolts where I started driving for dollars, because I learned when I started this, the best way to understand what a distressed property looks like is go look at one. Don't look at pictures, go see it. So I started them driving for dollars and building lists. And I think their first week, the first they were doing it independent of one another, then they started working together. I think in the first week, they were maybe putting in 20, 25, 30 properties a week. And then as time went on, one, their ability to identify a true potential increased exponentially. But two, all of a sudden their lists, when they started working together, all of a sudden their list went from 50 a week to 150 a week to 200 a week, and all of a sudden 350, sometimes 500 a week. So, and then understanding the area codes, understanding the zip codes, understanding the areas, understanding a median home price in this area compared to this one, compared to this one. So now all of a sudden conversations changed when we would say a zip code. They would both, oh yeah, I know that zip code. Oh yeah, the home price in that area of 500, 550, 600. So all of a sudden you get that feeling they're now grasping it. They're now soaking it in. So we slowly moved to doing virtual deals. To, okay, you understand what a distressed property looks like now because you've seen them, you've walked them, you've driven them. So now let's start looking online. And now let's start looking at properties together. So now let's start comping together. Let's start running, when I run my deal analyzer, let's run that together so you can see how I'm coming up. Let's look at Jacksonville, for example, where we've got a lot of traction going. All right, where do we need to buy? So we all know it's 55% of ARV or below. So now all of a sudden you've got Neil and Sam who are looking for properties themselves, and they're pushing them to me. And then I would call the realtor, but I would get them on the phone so they could hear that conversation. Then I think a month and a half ago, I said, okay, let's take the training wheels off. Now you're going to make the calls.
Well, what was the reaction to that?
You know, I think they both absolutely embraced it because they said, yeah, I can do this. Let me give it a try. I think I can do this. And all of a sudden, I am seeing and experiencing two cold calling ninjas who are having these fabulous conversations with realtors, and not only a conversation, but they're able to analyze a potential deal and send it to me. I'm getting text messages, I don't know how many a day. Hey, just had a great conversation, got a great deal. Let's have a look at it. So we're pumping out, I think on an average now, we're doing between 10 to 15 offers a day. So, and that's where we want to be. If we can do 20 to 25 a day, that's the goal. So now all of a sudden I've got Sam and Neil. So I am no longer doing the initial calls, which is the goal. So now all Scott's doing is underwriting, which is where I need to be. So they send me the deal. I have a look at it. I verify they're running the comps. They're sending me their ARV. I'm just checking it. And now I'm seeing I may have a difference of maybe $5,000, $6,000 from their ARV. And with their acquisition price, I may have a slight difference on their acquisition price because they're using a percentage. I'm using a deal analyzer, but that's the difference. I'm really going nuts and going deep on it. And then if it's a deal, I then call the realtor. I ask the final questions. I tell them the offer is on the way. So we have the offer that's in REI reply. It's ready to go. I put 3 pieces of information. Boom, out it goes. So we can send out an offer in 2 minutes.
And then, so in the beginning, I think things were, obviously when they were new starting out, and this took its acceleration. But now, I think we might have mentioned in the beginning of the call, you guys have how many offers out now, or how many contracts?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Again, I think we've got 60 some offers on the street. I'm looking at 26 more I have to analyze and do today. In title right now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in title right now.
Wow. Hey, so you want to introduce your team?
I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Sam, I was so oh, proud, humbled, elated. When Sam the other day, we were on our call, we do Zooms 3 times a week.
I'm
And
gonna bring them both on. So go ahead, continue.
so we've got these lists, market research that we're putting together, lists, of potential buyers. And Sam steps up and she says, well, why don't I start calling buyers? Hallelujah. So now she's calling buyers. So all of a sudden now I'm getting text messages or calls from Sam. Just got another one. He's buying this and he's buying, like the one today did 53 flips last year. Now he's in our database. So now what are we seeing now? Neil is a lead generation guru. He has fabulous conversations with realtors. Sam is becoming the queen of buyer relations because she's got that voice. No buyer is going to tell her to go F off. They just won't. They're going to have.
Scott, would you like to introduce your team?
I would. I would love to. I'm so proud of them.
Okay.
So we've got Neil Despy over here. And we've got Samantha Miranda here.
Now, you guys are both on camera right now, so you can unmute yourselves and say hello and jump in.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you guys. Sam, why don't you start?
Sam, start.
Oh, I get to start? Oh no.
Yeah, just when you started this, you've been. We all four of us, Neil, myself,
Yes.
Scott, we're all in the. We started Fortune Builders. I call them the other groups a lot of times, but
Yes.
we had started there. We got some preliminary education. I think for the four of us, nothing really happened there.
No.
I'm kind of continuing now what I did there, which is building my business by networking. But you took your time getting acclimated. Then you met Scott, and you and Neil weren't quite sure how that was going to go. And in the beginning, you were both a little bit reserved. How do you feel about? I mean, you're pretty excited now about what you guys are doing. What are you guys doing? What are you guys? What are you and Neil doing?
Well, like Scott was saying, Neil is calling the realtors and he's developing relationships with them. And I am developing relationships with buyers, calling them, searching them out first, and then calling them and seeing if they want to be on our list.
And then Neil, you're focusing with the agents. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm calling them. The way it started, as Scott said, we were driving for dollars. That was our training ground, so we could identify distressed properties. And pretty soon into it, I don't know, Sam, month and a half, whatever, we decided that we would, because we'd go out separately. And as Scott said, we started building our numbers slowly. But when we went out together, once or twice a week, we would do this. And we would go out. And I remember when we were thrilled, Sam, within a week or so of doing it, we got 80 properties one day. Oh, wow. We got to a point where we could get, depending on the neighborhood we're in, we sometimes got 200 plus in an hour and a half. And as I often joke, my standards of beauty have shifted considerably. Now, when I see a house that has all kinds of problems, I squeal with joy like a little kid. Oh my, look at that. The roof's caved in. What? Look at that. The windows, it's boarded up. Yes, write it down. So, and Scott brought us along that way. And gradually what Scott did, because I have been a teacher for many years myself, it was very systematic. Started us off very simply, just get the addresses. Then gradually it was, I need the addresses, put them in Podio. I need zip codes. Then no houses for sale or whatever it was. Little by little, he expanded. And then one fine day, he said, we're going virtual. Okay. And he had already been training Sam and Privy. And then he trained me. Sam really, I kind of trained me. They both did because she got a head start on that. And that's when things really started to take off. And then when he said, you need to make the calls. Yeah, we were hesitant. My hesitation was not, Sam is a little more reserved than I am, maybe a lot more reserved, or maybe I'm just louder and more wordy. So, but I just didn't want to make an ass of myself, not knowing what I was talking about. I can do that in my own life any day of the week. And I didn't want to call somebody up and screw up a deal because I said the wrong thing or I didn't know enough. And that's what I was afraid of. But we just started doing it. And Scott kept telling us, look, you probably know more than they do. And Scott, I'll have to tell you next time we speak one-on-one about the conversation I had yesterday with a realtor in Florida. Anyway, we started doing that, got more and more comfortable. And then it looked, what naturally happened is that Sam became the buyer's list person, the queen. And she has added more buyers. My God, Sam, how many have you added now in the last week or two? I mean, good Lord. So
I don't know.
We found our strength.
Yes.
But Scott
Yes,
has been very
system.
yeah, that's it exactly. And Scott has been. He says he's not a superhero. Scott, you're always going to be our superhero. Okay.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, you're always going to be our superhero.
Yeah.
One other thing I want. There's a point I want to make. A lot of people I know that Scott has tried to train, and other people who get involved in this, they're looking for the magic pill. Okay. What's the quick way in a week? I want to make $100,000, whatever. It's not going to happen like that. You have to put in the time, and it happens gradually. And and this is not to blow my own horn. I work in the music business. I have 2 jobs in the music business, teaching at a college and working on soundtracks in Hollywood. Okay. That takes up a lot of time, especially when, say, a TV show I'm working on is in production, where we're trying to get the music out and all that. That takes up a lot of time. So there's not a whole hell of a lot of free time that I have. If you are really committed to this, you make the time, you find the time. There are certain days that I have much less time to do this than others. Thank God for Sam. Thank God, obviously, for Scott. But we have figured this whole system out. On days that I simply can't do that much, they pick up the slack. On days that Sam gets busy with various things, I'll pick up the slack. But you have to put in the time. And if you really want to do this, you will find a way to make that time. And that's what we did.
Yeah. And making time every single day, being diligent with it.
Yeah. Even if it's just a little while. Sometimes
Yes.
in classes at the university, sometimes I have an hour and I'll try to get some addresses and make a phone call or 2. Even if it's that, as long as there's movement. And working in music, they'll tell you, if you're learning an instrument, no matter how big a virtuoso you become, you still have to practice every day. And there's an old saying, if I skip practicing for 1 day, I notice it. If I skip practicing for 2 days, my friends notice it. If I skip practicing for 3 days, the whole public knows it. Okay. So we put in.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think we should keep that. Keep that.
Yep.
So some days are tougher, but even if I can get in just a little bit, same with Sam, I've been out all day at this doctor's appointments. We have very soon got to deal with my daughter's need some help, whatever. But then we find that little pocket of time, even if it's late at night before bed, and get some work done. Get some work done. Don't let a day go by without getting some work done.
Well, and that's where I think it goes back to, as we started growing, we started putting those KPIs in place.
Mm-hmm.
And we started putting our daily goals in place and measuring ourselves against those. And I think that helps keep each of us accountable. Because now, as we're seeing, we're splitting off. We're still a tight team, tighter than we ever have been, and we'll get tighter all the more in the future. But now we're seeing ourselves splitting off in, Neil being lead generation, Sam being buyer development, buyer relations, me doing underwriting, and then working with, getting the contracts through title. Next, we'll see a transaction coordinator, so I can punt it all over to a transaction coordinator. I don't worry about it anymore. The only thing that Sam and I do then is push it to buyers and sell them. So as we're seeing all this happen, I think what really paid dividends, as you were saying, Neil, is knowing what our KPIs are, knowing what the minimum daily we want to achieve. So when we sat down, remember in the beginning, we were saying 3 to 5 offers a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shifted to 5 to 7 offers a day. And now it's shifted again to 10 to 12 a day. And I know it's going to shift in the next 2 weeks to 15 to 20 a day. Yes.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
You guys are doing really well right now, and I want to kind of tie this into the group.
Yep.
Is that you guys are doing this by building personal relationships. and maybe not
absolutely.
long term, but I mean, like Samantha's got a voice where no one's going to tell her to F off.
Nope.
That's not true. This morning.
Tell Sam.
And she didn't actually say that.
Well, you had a phone number, right? And you called it.
Well, I had
What happened?
what I thought it was a man's phone number, and I asked for him. I told him I was an investor in the area, and I got a very stern call back with, "Who is this? And who are you? What do you do?"
Oh,
Was it him?
It was his wife, and she let me know that he would be finding deals on his own. I wanted to tell her, I'm a grandma. Your husband is.
Your husband is not that cute.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
He can't handle me.
Exactly.
So, but basically, Samantha's great with the freaking sellers, and on Neil and dealing with the agents, he's got a pretty good sense of humor. He's got a good joke every now and then. Is that correct?
This is
yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yes.
Can't always repeat them, but yes. So yeah, I got a few. So I know, JJ. I just do that. But no, it was again finding our strengths and the thing too. When we first started, there was a necessity to this too. We all need to figure out ways to generate income, and I needed to do so. COVID was not good for the music business, and anyway, I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to do what it takes. And fortunately, I had Scott to lead the way and teach us, very patient and straightforward. I remember one of the first properties I submitted to him, Driving for Dollars, was one around the corner here. And it was being rehabbed, and it looked terrible, but they had posted some pictures online that were awful. And I mean, that were great, actually. I'm sorry, that looked beautiful. And so Scott called me and he said, what makes you think this is a distressed property? And I said, no, those pictures are not representative of what it is. He said, well, take some pictures and send them to me. And there were times that I put an address down that was wrong. And he said, I can't find it. So you begin to tighten up you make mistakes. That's all. Yeah. And you begin to make fewer and fewer mistakes. We still make them.
Guys, we got some questions lined up.
And you develop your own language.
Yes.
Let me bring some people on. Neil and Sam, I'm going to keep you on the call on the screen just in case the question applies to you guys. Okay. But we have Edgar Alexandre on. Edgar, you're on with Scott Jenkins and his team. Do you have a question?
Yes. Hey, JJ, first of all, thanks for providing us with this opportunity here. So, hey, Scott, I know that, I consider myself a newbie, and most of the newbies will look for the magic wand, for the magic pill or the magic potion, whatever, to do business and get started in real estate. And I know there's no such a thing. And that's even Neil, I think he mentioned, there's a lot of dedication and commitment. But for a newbie or someone who's starting this business here as a wholesaler or as an investor, what would be your piece of advice for us to start in the right path and not doing too many stupid things, if there's such a thing?
I would say the first thing, I'm going to say something, and whoever listens to this recording, please do not take this in the wrong way. Right? You've got different groups, and I'll answer your question, Alexander. You've got different groups like Brent Daniels, TTP. You've got Jamil Damji and Astro Flipping. Then you've got Pace Morby Sub 2, and you've got many others. But I think those are the three primaries that are probably the most skilled and professional I've ever encountered. I think the issue or drawback was Sub 2. There's so many different things you can do. There's so much education you can do. There are so many online videos you can go watch. You can get shiny object syndrome. And you can start in one thing and the next week you're doing another and you're doing another and you're doing another, but you're not gaining traction.
Yeah.
I think that when I talk to people, the one thing I say, and I'll go back to Sam and Neil, start doing one thing. Master that. Once you understand exactly how to do that, take the next thing on and then master that. Do one thing. Like if somebody told me, I want to start wholesaling, what do? Then you're going to do wholesaling and nothing else for at least 90 days. And during those 90 days, this is what you're going to do. You're going to drive for dollars, or you're going to door knock, you're going to pull lists, or you're going to look online with Privy, and you're going to have at least 20 conversations, at least 20 conversations. I'm not saying 20 calls, 20 conversations, because what you want to do, you want to hone your skills with speaking to people so that you can feel comfortable with that. And by doing that, you gain your own knowledge, your own confidence, so that no matter what type of conversation you have, you feel comfortable with it. Then you start putting deals together, start making offers. So what if it's accepted or not? The highest fear I had when I started all of this was not the seller conversation, was not pulling list. It was the first time I got a deal under contract, because I had no clue what the heck to do after that. What I did, I reached out to someone like me. And I said, hey, I've got a property under contract. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? So I partnered with that person on it, and I shadowed that person all the way through. I took all my notes all the way through, how to open title, how to do the assignments, how to find a buyer, so that I had the recipe on how to do it after that. Then I had the confidence to do it myself. So when I got the next one, that fear factor was less. I just took my cheat sheets and I followed a step by step by step by step. And guess what? I assigned the deal. I opened title. I assigned the deal. I found the buyer, closed on it, got paid. Yeah. So the next one, the fear was gone, because I thought, I now have the recipe to do it. And that's what I did. And I got that, honestly, from Brent Daniels. I think that was the biggest learning experience for me when I heard Brent Daniels say one day, do this and do it consistently for 90 days, no less, every day, 90 days. Block out time. Put 2 hours in the morning. Start with 15-minute blocks. Take a 5-minute break, 15 minutes, 5-minute break, 15 minutes, build up your strength, your endurance, and then get to 2 hours or 3 hours of calling. That's how I started. So to answer your question more in a nutshell, Edgar, pick a single lane, focus on that, do it for 90 days. Don't give up, and do it every day. As Neil said about the music industry, you've got to hone your skill every single day.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Edgar, thank you so much. And Edgar, that actually kind of relates to what we talked about before the call.
Absolutely.
That implementation will lead to, the next step.
Absolutely.
Edgar, thank you so much for your question.
Thanks, JJ.
Always appreciate you being on. My good friend Sean Baxter and his 18-wheeler traveling the country.
I see that.
Hey, Scott, if you want to still drive around the country like your dreams were, let's Zoom together and you can do it with me.
Hey, you got it, buddy. Just turn the camera around so I can see the road.
We'll flip it around and we'll let you go. See what's going on. All right. Okay. Now, coming off of Edgar's question, now after the lane there, now how would somebody driving for dollars in a different way, like do the KPIs without all the systems starting out at to track it?
If I understood your question, you're when you say driving for dollars in a different way, are you saying virtually driving for dollars?
Well,
or driving in your truck?
Yeah, I'm driving for dollars in the truck, but driving for dollars or even calling agent outreach or anything like that, what is the suggestion on keep doing KPIs without having the whole network systems to try to keep that going before I can start it, then I'll eventually get the systems like you have?
Well, when I first started, I started simply by driving properties, driving for dollars, getting the addresses, going on True People Search, searching for the owner of an address. Oh, no, actually, excuse me. I used Deal Machine, and I put all of my addresses in Deal Machine. It's $25, I think, a month. I use Deal Machine. Every time I would see an address, I would click on it, add it to my list, click on it, add to my list. Now with Deal Machine, you can get the property ownership information right away. You get the telephone number, you can call them. That's the way I started. I think I would probably do a list of 25 to 30 properties a week, and then I would call them. And I would keep adding it to my Excel spreadsheet, and I would just call, and I would call, and I would call. Sometimes that worked, but what it gave me was the reps I needed in seller conversations. That's what I needed. I need to have those conversations. I needed to hear the objections. Again, I will give a shout out to Brent. He's got a really good script. He's got, the answers to the 6 seller objections. There are no more than that. There's going to be 6. And as well, as long as you can really feel comfortable with the seller objections, you're going to get through that conversation, and you might even turn it into a deal. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question, my friend. If I were you and you're driving a lot, I would spend, since you're in a truck, it may be difficult for you to write down an address. I would get something like Deal Machine, where you can just pin that address. It goes into a database. You can export that spreadsheet. Then you can look for the phone numbers and then call them. And you can keep those spreadsheets and just set your spreadsheets so that date called, callback date, notes, and then you can color code it on, red for out, yellow for warm lead, green for hot lead, and submit an offer. So that's the way I did it. I just put it on an Excel spreadsheet, color coded it, had my dates on follow-ups. I kept it really simple, really cheap.
So basically, it's just used an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of all your KPIs. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you much.
That's what I did. And I tried to follow through on what Brent was saying of having, at least 20 or 30 conversations a day. Absolutely. Okay. So, since you're on the road a lot, what I would honestly do, I would go in Redfin. I would pick an area. I would pull the top 30 or 40 realtors. I would print their information out. You're on the road. I would have a conversation with them. If you want to do, deals in Dallas, Texas, I would print out the top 20 or 30 realtors in Dallas, Texas. I'd have a conversation. And I just say, hey, I'm a local buyer. This is what I'm looking for. I prefer off market, but if you have an on market that's super distressed, send it to me. I'll have a look at it. I can close in 10, 15 days, the whole spiel. And then all of a sudden what you're doing little by little, you're developing those relationships where those properties are now coming to you. So while you're driving, someone else is working to fill your pipeline. That's what Sam, Neil, and I are feeling now. I mean, we've got 12 properties with one realtor. We've got another one that's got 7 properties with one realtor. So you got one relationship that's bringing you multiple opportunities. That's the ideal place to find yourself.
Hey, Sherry, you're on with Scott Jenkins.
Hello.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi. So I have a question regarding the KPIs. And I don't know, because you guys don't do direct to seller for KPIs. Like I've been asked, because my main outreach is direct to seller versus text messaging. So I don't know if you can point me in the right direction, or anybody else here today can, to I need a KPI tracking sheet for text messaging campaigns.
I think I might have one for text messaging campaign that I can send you.
Okay.
I think my KPI tracker has all of that. I think it has direct calls. It's got text messaging. It's got driving for dollars. I think it's got door knocking, if I'm not mistaken, realtor outreach. I think it has all of them.
Seven Smith, you're on with Scott Jenkins. What's your question?
Well, hello, Scott.
Hello, Sevlin. It is always a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. I was excited about when you were talking about agent outreach.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've been doing is trying to work with agents. I think I sent you a text talking about that. So what process are you using to get them to come on board a little more about working with agents? And I'm thinking in terms of creative financing, because right now we got sellers asking for the world when it comes to their properties. How are you all handling getting agents to explain to sellers perhaps the benefits of seller financing?
Well, let me answer. I'm going to take the first part, and then I'm going to turn over to Neil.
Okay.
Because Neil is the relationship king. I mean, he just develops that. But let me take the first part. So with sellers, let me talk about sellers first. Yes, I agree with you. Sellers are sometimes unreasonable, right? In their asking prices. And what you have to do is re-educate them. The market is no longer what it used to be. And that property will sit there for quite some time. So the conversation that we have with realtors is very upfront, that property is way overpriced. This is where it needs to be. Are you in agreement with us? So we work at getting the realtor to agree with us.
Right.
And I have one yesterday who said, yeah, send me your offer again. I'm going to talk to my seller because he's really unreasonable. I know he is. That property is never going to sell. So the relationship, the conversation we have with realtors is beyond the existing property. What we're looking at is that long-term relationship.
Right.
And so we're looking at the property that they currently have listed, but we're looking at more than that. So we try to position ourselves as their best friends, that we want to be a repeat buyer with them. And we're here to work with them to help them make more money because we're going to buy a lot more properties from you. So whether or not this deal works doesn't matter. It's the next one and the one after that and the one after that. So Neil, I'll talk about creative finance in a minute, but Neil, do you want to talk about your conversations?
Sure. All I do is I ask them a couple basic questions. I introduce myself and say I'm an investor, and I ask you've listed a property at 125 West 12th Street, wherever in Miami, and you can tell pretty quickly whether they're willing to talk or not. You do get people who are, as Sam said, they can be very rude. You try to end those calls as fast as possible. But most of the time, the majority of the time, I can get them to open up a little bit. And then I ask them some basic questions about the house. And I always have the pictures in front of me. I'm very comfortable I want to pull the property up. And I say, okay, this is obviously distressed property. What's the story? How bad is it? Most of the time, they're pretty honest, and they'll give you a lot of information. I'll say something like, what's the foundation like? And that might get them started. Well, the foundation is okay, but you know what? The roof needs replacing. The HVAC is old. The air conditioning leaks, whatever. Windows need changing. And you ask them, tenant occupied, owner occupied, is it empty? Also, we ran into a situation, last month, Scott and Sam, with that reverse mortgage. So ask them if there are any liens. Get as much basic information as you can. Are there any liens against the property? Does he own it free and clear, he or she? That sort of thing. And then if I can really get them talking, we start telling stories around the campfire. I tell them music business stories because I've dealt with a lot of rock stars. And so throwing celebrity name dropping, I love to do. Whoa, wow, gee whiz, and that will oftentimes lead to, do you have any other properties like this? If this deal doesn't work out, as Scott just said, I'll say, if this doesn't work out, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to work with you again. If I couldn't find their email online, we'll exchange emails. They're in my phone. And that's it. Then if I like the conversation, if the deal looks good, not only will I text Scott, but I'll call him. And if he's got a minute, I say, hey, listen, I just talked to so-and-so and great guy, got him to laugh. He wants to work with us, blah, 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 blah. If you get a minute, call him. And I'll say, I'm going to speak with my partner, with Scott Jenkins, from whom you will probably be hearing. And that's it. That's what I do. But basic questions and see how the conversation goes. Sometimes you get the one syllable response people. Yeah, no.
Yes.
All right, done. Yeah. So, and there are days, I was going to say, enlarging on something Scott said, there are going to be days, and it's always discouraging to me, but you got to move past it. When you don't get hold of anybody and nobody calls you back, and it's a drag. You think, oh God, wasted day. But it wasn't a wasted day. It wasn't. You got some you got some leads in the pipeline. You just follow up the next day or text them, whatever. And this happened one day last week. I had a blast of a day on Monday, and then Tuesday was bleh. Yeah. But I followed up Wednesday. I got a call back the next day from someone on Tuesday. Anyway, you just keep going. No matter what happens, just keep going.
Now, let me answer your question on creative. Some realtors, and that's what you will gather from the initial conversation, is what their level of real estate investing is. I would say the majority of what we're seeing today from real estate agents, many of them are converting to realtors, investors, flippers. So we're seeing a migration because we all know real estate agents are not selling like they used to sell. So they're hungry. They're more open to working with people like us. So we are basically a godsend to real estate agents because they want to have that relationship. Now, when I find a real estate agent who is investor savvy, having a creative conversation with them is simpler because they understand the concept and the principle, and they understand the benefit to the investor and the seller. So they're putting that creative deal together and presenting it to the seller becomes a lot easier. When I have a real estate agent who does not really understand subject to seller finance, hybrid options, it takes more time to educate. But the key for me is getting them to the level of agreement to setting up a call with the seller. And I'm still working on 2 in LA, and that's where we're getting to now, of the real estate agents setting up a call with the seller so I can present the seller finance option to the seller with the realtor on the phone. Right. But reassuring the real estate agent, their commission is going to get paid. And by the way, we have a thank you program for realtors where we can offer you a little more to help us get this deal done. So it's helping them understand that they're not going to get cut out of the deal because, you know, a typical real estate transaction, their fees are included. On a seller finance deal, they may be fearful they're getting cut out of the solution. But once you let them know, look, we're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of your commission. Don't worry about it. They feel much more comfortable.
I recall when we were trying to do something in Rocky Mount, you know, because we could not, the problem we were having is that they would not allow us to have a 3-way meeting
with the seller,
the actual seller.
Correct. And the seller was being unreasonable.
And totally unreasonable.
Because when we looked at the offer price on a seller finance deal for those 7 or 9
8, it was
units, 8, there you go. The seller was being very unreasonable. They were asking above market value. They was asking the terms he was asking for was unrealistic. Okay, great. It's not a deal. It's not going to, no matter which way you pencil out, it ain't going to be a deal. So I don't know if they've ever sold that portfolio, and I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time, right? I mean, there's another one around the corner. I'm not going to, JJ said it before at the beginning of all of this. Don't chase the deal. Right. Chase the relationship. And that's what with Neil and with Sam, I think that's where we're finding now a lot of our traction today is coming from laying the foundation with the relationship and having these realtors feel really good working with us. They trust us. They like us. They want to work with us. Yes.
You know, right now, Neil is excellent with the agents. Samantha's excellent with the sellers. But as you said, it's not okay, someone go out and get someone who's excellent with the agents, with the sellers. It took time to develop your team. And you had many, many people. I mean, like dozens of people that were coming to you for training that only two of them finally, and they happened to be no one another, made the cut.
Well, and I'll go back to what we said in the very beginning, right? I still work with a lot of wholesalers, and I have a lot of wholesalers calling me. And I had one yesterday, I think it was, who called me, wants to work with me, wants to JV. I honestly, and again, I don't want anyone to feel offended by this comment. You got to be so careful of who you work with because you have to have a fit. There's got to be a fit with you. And if you're trying to force that relationship and force it because you're looking at the monetary advantage, it's never going to work. When you feel comfortable with people, like I feel with Neil, like I feel with Sam, we become a little family and we trust each other. We know what each other can do. So now what we're seeing, the fruits of all of that in the number of deals we've got now in title and the number that we've got in the pipeline and the number we're putting, I mean, the deals that are flowing in now is unbelievable. The other wholesalers, they have come and they have gone. There are some who profess to me they're so good and they do this and they do that. And then when they start sending information in, it's hogwash. It's a waste of my time. Or there's wholesalers who say, I've got all these buyers, and you send them a deal and crickets. So it's a waste of time. So now I've gotten to the point, I don't care who you are. When you call me and you want to work with me, I'm going to put you through the paces before I even give you the light of day, because I don't want you wasting my time. And again, I don't think I'm so special. I really do not. But I know how much time I've got in a day. And I know how the worth of a minute in my day. I would rather spend my time with people like Sam, Neil, probably everyone on this call, because it's Saturday afternoon, you're here. So you're showing dedication. If you're that dedicated, you're that committed, you're that persistent, we would love to work with you, because I know what you're going to give, and I can assure you of what I'm going to give to you. The others, I'm not so sure. So now I am extremely critical of anybody reaching out to me wanting to work with me. They've got to prove themselves before I'll even give them that amount of time. So there you go.
I think, Scott, we can just kind of wrap it up, I think. But before we do, I want to thank Neil and Samantha for being on the call as well. I know we've been talking about possibly bringing them on. You had at one time actually said they're probably the best driving for dollar team in the country.
I would give them that. I would pit them against anybody else in the nation. Because they have come so far and they have learned so much and they become so dang proficient. I would pit them against anybody.
So I want to thank you guys for being on.
Thanks for having us.
We had some good questions. I want to thank you for being on, brother. You're awesome. You've done outstanding with wholesaling in multiple states. You've taken two people that didn't want to talk on the phone, and now they're awesome with agents and sellers.
And buyers.
You guys have, just a lot going on. And I think one of the things you've stressed is the importance of the team and putting the right people together. And it doesn't happen overnight. I know you guys have put in a long line in the middle. Hey, we got one more question, young. I'm bring this person on. Ashish Surendranath, you are on with Scott Jenkins. What's your question?
Hey, Scott. The topic for today's conversation was wholesaling in a shifting market or shifting economy. And my question to you is, when it comes to wholesaling, do you see, like, what's the difference between wholesaling just in your backyard and focusing on that, as opposed to like wholesaling virtually in different markets? What's the difference and what's the significance? And should we make that change in mindset or strategy when you consider the shifting market or the shifting economy?
Well, let me ask you this. That's a darn good question. And thank you for bringing that. What market are you in?
I'm in Virginia, in Central Virginia.
Okay. Central Virginia is a really good market. High-priced homes, largest. Well, I think you've got a large buyer database in Virginia. I have never done wholesale deals in Virginia because of the price point, to be honest with you.
I mean, there's some areas where prices are like less than 200, but they are.
But I've always looked at, so I always start with a market where there is very high buyer activity. So that's the first thing I look for. If there are a lot of buyers buying in a certain market or in a certain zip code or in a certain neighborhood within a zip code, that's where I'm going to start, regardless if it's in my backyard or virtual. The difference between the two, if it's in your backyard, it's easier, right? Because you can go see the property, you can meet with the seller or the agent, you can get your own pictures, and you can get your buyers. Virtual, you have to have that set up. Like in Jacksonville, we've got a great guy. He went out and walked 3 properties for me this morning, sent me all the pictures. We had a conversation. So when you're doing virtual, you're going to have to work a lot on setting up your team and having people you can rely on. But I'm looking at markets that are super strong, where I know buyers are buying, where a medium home price is anywhere between $250, $500, maybe $700. So it's easier for retail buyers to buy, and it's very accessible for cash buyers to purchase them. Now, the other markets I look at are higher end, but those are creative deals, right? I will not do cash deals. I'm doing creative deals on those. So that when I look at a market, that's where I first start, is looking at buyers.
Okay.
If I see markets like the markets we're working in right now, LA, Las Vegas, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, we backed off a little bit out of Houston, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, West Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, actually even Kissimmee is really getting strong. So those are the markets that we are focused on. Then once we identify a market, I analyze the market. I want to understand how many homes are in the market. What's the average days on market? What's the median home price? I run Zillow research data, so I can see what the trend has been in that market for the last 6 months. Has it been going down? Has it stayed steady? Has it gone up? Like Orlando. Orlando went down 4 months ago, came up last month, and has remained steady since. So there was a drop in retail appreciation, but now it's coming back up to where it was before. Sacramento dropped 12%. So if I'm looking at an ARV in Sacramento of 30 days ago, I am going to start taking 12% off of that ARV, and that's where I'm going to start my calculations from an adjusted ARV. So all my spreadsheets, I have spreadsheets in every region we work in. Every spreadsheet is set up with the market adjustment, so that if the market has adjusted, like Austin, Texas, I adjusted -5% because the market slowed down. I cannot use an ARV of 3 months ago at 100% and then bring it to a buyer, because a buyer is looking at what's the market going to do in 3 or 4 months when that property hits the market to be sold. I also look at the number of active listings and the average days those listings are sitting on the market. If we're looking at, if my average days on market is 45 days, and I'm seeing similar properties sitting on the market for 120 days, I cannot bring out my property at that price, right? It's going to sit. So I will adjust my ARV down. So when I bring it to my buyer can sell at, let's say, $15,000 or $20,000 less than the market sitting on the property, but still make their 15% net profit. That's our job. Our job is to be so knowledgeable to that market. When we bring a property to a buyer, they should trust us that our numbers make sense. That's what we are paid to do.
Makes sense.
Did that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely. I also want to make a comment. What I've seen is like, I mean, I do wholesaling every now and then, but wholesalers that are really good, they're operating in 2-3 markets, and I haven't ventured out into a virtual market. But sometimes in your own market, either there's lack of deals or price points are not good, or sometimes you might not have that much volume. So it always is helpful, like from a logical standpoint, it's always helpful to be also in another market.
Absolutely. I live in Portland. Am I wholesaling in Portland? No, absolutely not. I'm watching the market. I think a big thing in a Portland area in a very short while is going to be foreclosures, because people bought way too high and they're going to get hit with that now. But am I actively wholesaling in Portland? No, I'm not, because there's not that much cash buyer activity. There are many homes are sitting on the market for a long, long time. Talking to realtors, they are having a hard time moving their inventory. So I'm not going to work in this market right now, because I would spend a lot of time trying to get one deal under contract and moving it, as opposed to working in a market where I know buyers are buying in a flurry. Like, again, Sam put a guy under as a buyer today who did 53 flips last year. That was last year when the interest rates were starting to soar, and the guy still did 53 flips. So I'm going to play in those areas because they're strong.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, my friend.
Yes, my friend. Anything for you, buddy.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it a little bit, and obviously you and I go back a bit. But when we're coming to this forum, being YouTube, Facebook, social media, to conduct our real estate business, we have people coming into social media that have very little experience with real estate. Some have a great deal of experience with real estate that are coming down on social media. Whether one is a new investor or experienced investor who's now starting to enter social media with the desire to build their business, what is the importance of networking and ideally using a group like mine to build their business? How important is that for the success?
Well, I would start that by saying, if you had not invited me here today to speak about what I do, a lot of people here wouldn't know who I am, right? I mean, I would probably not get to know Edgar, or I probably wouldn't get to know Sean. So networking is crucial in what we do. People need to know who we are, what we do, what we stand for. And by speaking to them in a social platform, they get to a level, at least a beginning level of trust of what you are and who you are. And they can resonate with that. Someone can watch, like I watched Brent Daniels. When I watched Brent Daniels at YouTube, I immediately clicked with the guy. And to be honest with you, I think if there's anyone I resemble more today, Brent, Pace, Jamil, it's Brent. It's on my bucket list to go spend 3 days with Brent Daniels, and I will do it. So can we survive without social networking and what we do? You could. If you wanted to work in your own market and do deals yourself, one-on-one, you could do it. Will you be able to do 20, 30, 40, 50 deals a month? I highly doubt it. With social networking, it gives me the platform to reach out to a lot more people, to have a lot more people know who I am. So when my name comes across their desk, oh, I know that guy. They may have never talked to me, but they know me.
So your name precedes you, at which point your name becomes your brand.
At 1,000%. Yes. Before I even pick up a phone, they've got the feeling they know me. So, what about the importance for the investor, new or experienced, to join a networking group like mine? Is that a benefit for them, or? Well, I would hope that the experienced investor would want to jump into a forum like this so that they can pay back, right? They can pay it forward. They can connect with a newer investor and help them in their journey. That's what I would hope. For the new investor, this is the prime platform to meet people like me or like you or like Neil or Sam and feel that there's a connection there and want to get to know them better and understand how they began or are doing what they're doing today and learn from them and even offer up. How can, the biggest thing I've heard, and I still say it myself, how can I bring you value? Right? It's not what you can do for me. How can I bring you value? And in return, you will bring me value. Lead with value.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I get asked that all the friggin' time. And obviously, all the education groups are like, well, you got to make yourself valuable. How can you bring value?
Eric reached out to me today. I don't know if he's here anymore or he's gone. That's a pain. I want to give him a shout out. He reached out to me after the Zoom. I think it was last week. He reached out to me through the week. We started connecting, and his question to me this morning was, how can I be of help to you? How can I bring you value? Well, there you go. Okay, this is what you can do for me. And this is what I think I can do for you. So it's an exchange of value add. It's not how much money I can bring you or how many deals I can bring you. It's what can I do for you to add value to what you're doing.
Yeah, and I always like to interject in there about the part, let's get to be friends first. Let's get to know one another first.
Yeah.
That gets back to chase a relationship, don't chase a deal.
Well, look at Sam and Neil, right? That's my brother and sister. You touch them, you touch me, and God help you. That's the other side of me that kicks in. But that's where you get to. And you get to a level, I associate it back to, and again, I guess that deep-rooted foundation from a certain part of my life where no man left behind, right?
Yeah.
And you get to that protective level. And I know today they've got my back, I've got theirs. That's where you get to. When you get that team together, and it goes back to, again, when you get that perfect team together, magic happens. When I had a recon unit, we were 7 of us, we didn't even have to talk. We knew what the other was feeling, and everybody knew the other had their back. Here it's the same thing. When you get that team together, it's not work anymore. It's not holding each other accountable. It's all of us are working hard every day to achieve a common goal.
As far as the network goes, to help one another.
Oh, totally. 1,000%. 1,000%.
We talked about Sevelin Smith. a number of other people that have been active in the community and growing relationships and growing their business.
Sevlin and I have tried to do deals together, and I swear I really pray someday we're going to get that to happen.
You'll get there.
I know we will. But Sevlin now is a private money lender. So what I'm going to ping Sevlin because I need transactional funding for all the deals we're doing. So I will start working with Sevlin. She will probably be a money lender to me in the beginning, but we will certainly start doing creative deals together and buying up a multi-unit properties because I think that's where our relationship will go.
And the great part about that is we've all go back months and years where we have developed a relationship first.
Absolutely.
Let's kick off. We got Pace Morby in town. We're going to jump into the breakout room.
I know. How dare he come today?
Yeah, today of all days. Let's I want to say for those that are watching on YouTube right now, please like the video and put something in the comments below. You want to hear one of Neil's jokes. Or just
Pancho Villa. Call Neil and ask him to tell you the Pancho Villa joke.
He's got so many jokes, it's not funny. He's hysterical. When we have networking parties at my house, guys, Neil's going to be there. And I guarantee you, he's going to be holding court in the game room, telling some unbelievable jokes over some really good whiskey. So anyhow, Scott, if people want to contact you, connect with you, what's the best way to reach you? Is it Instagram, Facebook?
Honestly, send me a text. Again, I'm still somewhat old school. I try to get back to people as fast as I can on Facebook. That goes straight into my CRM. Then you will be in my database where I'm going to put you anyway, so I can always stay in touch with you. Other than that, send me a text message, the number below my name, 925-628-9934. That's my personal cell phone number. I will get back to you. It may take me a little bit of time. I apologize, but I will get back to you.
Fantastic. Hey, guys, thank you so much for joining us today, joining Scott and myself. Look for more videos coming up on the YouTube channel, The Flip Side Up with JJ. You can look for me on the internet, jjzizian.com. You'll find the events, all future guest speakers. You'll find recordings linked to the YouTube channel. And thanks for joining Scott and I today, and look forward to seeing you guys soon for more. Over now.
Thank you, JJ.